We pick up episode 2 with what has to be a flashback, seeing as how it involves Holden and that navigator that he was shagging on the Canterbury, both of which didn't survive to the end credits. In fact, that's a problem for them, in more ways than one. But starting with the fact that the debris from the ship is spreading out in all directions. And they are a direction, so that calls for running away. This isn't Star Trek. There's no shields, there's no navigation deflector, there's no godlike alien to test humanity. There's just lots and lots of tiny pieces of metal and your hull, purchased for this ship by a company VP who will never have to ride in it personally. Weird, it simultaneously sounds like a bad thing and a good thing. Like, I know that impacting their tiny ship is bad, but it also sounds like you're ringing the bell for getting the ball through the hoop at the carnival. Okay, that's the picture of unambiguous. There's nothing good about that. Not unless you felt it was too stuffy in here. And even then, this is overkill. Holden manages to close it, but that probably has only bought time to tally the many ways they are screwed. Holden tells Alex to go after the ship responsible, but Naomi belays that since it will accomplish fuck all. What are you going to do if you catch up? Leak oxygen at them? Holden attempts to force the issue, so Naomi shuts down the engines. Let's be fair, Holden feels guilty, and that sucks, but getting them all killed is a lousy way to deal with that. Working through things shouldn't involve dragging others into a suicide pact. On Ceres, where they could really use that water that was just blown up, rationing means that Miller doesn't have enough water to finish his shower. It takes a long time to wash a giant dong. He heads to Julie Mao's place to investigate, starting with going through her files, and finds Jules Pierre Mao demanding that she come home, and saying he's going to sell the Razorback if she doesn't. Well, she makes clear he can sell whatever he likes. She won't let him use money to control her, and Miller can respect that. And the large amount of water she still has in her account. It's the little perks that you cherish. Back on Earth, Aaron Wright, a bigwig in the UN, is very unhappy with Avasarala about using gravity torture on the Belter. It's against the Secretary General's public policy. Oh, and also, and I hate to bring politics into the show, but I feel I have to, torturing people is wrong. There, my hot take, but I stand by it. So she puts the guy in the tank and tries talking to him about the stealth technology, but while he has a lot to say, it's not to answer questions about that.
There are places far worse than this.
Have you ever heard of New Jersey? Meanwhile on the shuttle,
we've got a dead radio and about 4 hours of oxygen left.
Which means we have to decide which extended version Lord of the Rings movie to watch. I say we vote. Well, Holden figures the radio is the only possible salvation, so even though they will lose air going out the airlock, they have to try it. They do have suits, but that's a lot of oxygen to flush.
If we open those doors, please just listen to me. Listen to me. If we go out there, we're gonna die. I'm not ready to die.
Hey, calm down. Don't lose your head, pal. Over on Ceres, Miller and his partner need to go check out a problem the governor has, although they're far too busy to get involved, what with the... So naturally a lackey is sent in to point out the brown patch is appearing in the garden, a sign water is being stolen, and it compromises the ability to recycle the air. That makes sense in context. See, that's a cactus given in sarcasm. Obviously, no more context is needed.
Oh, shit!
This definitely requires no context. This is Holden committing a world-class screw-up, and this is the man who got them into this situation, so that's a fairly impressive score he's racking up. He might win his weight class as far as biggest fuck-up of the year. Amos is stoic enough not to complain about that, but then he's pretty sure they're screwed anyway. It's like watching your last dollar bill blow away on the wind. It probably won't make a difference. Inside, Alex is starting to get a little loopy, which is probably not a bad way to meet your end, now I think about it. I think being shit-faced meeting the Grim Reaper would in fact improve the experience. You could pull the old got-your-nose trick if you want to. As for Amos and Holden...
But ask me whether or not I should rip your helmet off and kick you off this bucket. And I can't give you a reason why I should. Or shouldn't. Except Naomi wouldn't like it.
Note to self, stay on Naomi's good side. Inside, Shed discovers that Alex has a problem with his rebreather. Oh, no, that's bad. No, I looked up bad on Google Images once, and this was the first thing that came up. Shed doesn't know what to do.
Shed, you're a medic. Act like one.
I fail to see how playing golf will help. Shed goes for the old buddy breathing, but now they're both losing air fast. They'll need to get that antenna working now, and I mean now.
Piece of shit!
Yeah, kick his ass. You tell that antenna who's boss. With that, they can get back inside, and now that we don't need to open the door anymore, we can repressurize and get the buddy breathers some fresh O2. Pretty close, too. It required some CPR to get them going again. But they make it. Don't want to die before everyone else does. That'd be rude. Meanwhile, Earnhardt doesn't want to send the prisoner to the moon for further interrogation just yet, and he's not convinced the OPA is after stealth weapons either. Mars has no interest in aligning with the OPA. I mean, there may be a Cold War, but the OPA are, with few exceptions, an unpredictable collection of disorganized amateurs. Throwing in with Mars, now, at the cost of the monopoly on stealth technology, it just doesn't seem like a strategically sound move. To put it another way, during the Soviet-Afghan War, America joined with powers in the region in supporting the Mujahideen, the Afghanistan resistance fighters. Now, the training provided to these resistance fighters, combined with the power vacuum that emerged during the end of the war, paved the way for military-trained extremist forces to then arise, such as Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda, who famously turned on America, remember. Now, that turned out bad, but how much worse would it have been if the Mujahideen already were extremists, already hated the United States as much as they hated the Soviets? How much more absurd would it have been to aid them in that situation? And with cutting-edge military technology that even the Soviets didn't have yet. Yet that is what Avasarala is suggesting is going on. Mars partnering with people who already are extremists, who already hate Mars as much as they hate Earth, and essentially handing them the 23rd century equivalent of Predator drones. I've got to stand with Earnhardt on this one. There's no logic to such an alliance. Meanwhile, there's trouble on the shuttle. The antenna is working fine now, but there's not enough power, so they're going to have to rig something up to send out a stronger signal. Luckily, Naomi is a Belter engineer, which means cobbling together working stuff from scrap is right in her wheelhouse, and they get to work building their amplifier. She also has to step up when there are complaints about that navigator's bleeding heart, which provokes Holden, who, true to Don Quixote, wants to rise to the lady's defense, even if it's really not the time. A matter of fact, Naomi speaks to him in private to say he can sort with his private shit once they all survive this, and rightly so. Life and death really isn't the time to pause and work through your issues. If you're on a sinking ship, I sure hope you're focused on pumping out the water rushing aboard instead of dwelling on how your insistence on throwing food at your girlfriend's father because you didn't like his politics ultimately cost you your soulmate. Meanwhile, Miller and his partner head down with a Belter technician to track down where the water is being tapped. The tech is not only OPA, but freely allows his tats to be visible, showing that off. To be clear, not all OPA are terrorists, and I wasn't saying that OPA and Al-Qaeda are the same. It was just to make a point about how government approaches policy. A guy like this, it's more likely than not that what he wants is just to not be exploited by Earth and Mars, but he's not going to go around shooting people and being willing to let loved ones die if it scores media points. Anyway, they track where the pipe was breached, and the group of Belters are tracked down. For the record, these guys aren't dying of thirst and doing what they need to survive, and they're not looking to help the oppressed. They see a potential profit by selling this water in desperate times. So they're stealing water to do that. At the same time, when you allow shortages to occur in vital supplies, inevitably there will be crime and black markets. There's enough selfishness to go around, is what I'm saying. The governor and his or her people for not being concerned about the Belters, the criminals who exploit that suffering, and Miller, who isn't motivated by any ideals whatsoever, Just a desire to navigate this complex ecosystem and move up. That hat that he wears it to be more like an earther. He wants to have that. He's just not willing to lick boots to have it. The kid starts smashing his head against the wall to martyr himself, Oh, look at how the man roughed me up. In what is, I think we can all agree, a desperate young man's attempt to get laid. Miller makes several points, one being that the kid was stupid and greedy. Take a little water, make a little profit, and no one would have noticed. But keep sucking that teat, and then it's going to get noticed sooner or later, and you'll wind up with nothing. He also points out that by making this move, the idiot risks drawing the ire of the local gang, operating a market in their turf, and not cutting them in is a surefire way to wind up being recycled into water yourself. The kid claims that the gang is gone, but Miller finds that hard to believe. Still, in the end, he cuts this idiot loose as a warning to him and all the idiot's friends to be smarter in the future. And speaking of smarts, Naomi cracks open the box that they took off the scopuli and finds evidence that this is Martian tech.
It makes all kind of sense. That ship that attacked the can wasn't tucked behind an asteroid. It was hiding in plain sight. It's a stealth ship.
Why would they nuke a civilian ship without warning?
Because they can.
Yeesh, and I thought Miller was a cynic. I don't think even he would presume Mars would lure an ice hauler into an ambush so they can blow it up for the reason of 'cause. Speaking of the scopuli, Miller's detective work has led the trail of Julie Mao to that ship. Nothing particularly special about it, but now Miller's path is leading to the same place that Holden and his company have just left. Later, Miller digs in some more, and he clearly is starting to be impressed with her. This no doubt isn't the first little rich person that he's had to chase out here, but he sees Julie someone who has something to be admired. More than just youthful defiance of privilege, but an identity that's prepared to leave all of that behind rather than compromise on who she is. While he noodles over that, the 5 refugees are finally heard by the Martian flagship, no less, the Donager. Given that Martian tech they found, they immediately conclude that this is the Martians coming to finish them off. So Holden thinks there's only one way to ensure that if they go on that ship, they can leave again. And that's to broadcast to anyone who can hear him about what the Martians did. So they'll get on the Martians' good side that way, I'm sure. Yeah, those look like real happy people right now. What's going to happen? Let's go on to episode 3 and find out.